Shabbat Shalom. There is a spiritual power to the Jewish calendar. Rabbi Arthur Waskow teaches that Jewish time has a sacred rhythm, mirroring the ebb and flow of our natural world. Just as seasons turn and tides shift, the Jewish year moves us through cycles of joy and grief, contraction and expansion. The calendar doesn't just mark time, it shapes it, guiding us through emotional and spiritual landscapes. Today, we find ourselves at the lowest point of our Jewish calendar. We are close to the summer solstice, and so very far from the life-giving waters of the rainy season. Israel is dry as a bone baking in the sun. This is a time of mourning. These past 3 weeks leading into Sunday's observance of Tisha B'Av are known as Ben HaMatzerim, the time between the narrows. This is a time of restriction, of tightening, meant to embody the siege of Jerusalem and the destruction of the temple. According to our sages, the destruction was the culmination and the result of human failure, of leadership breakdown, of unchecked greed, and of cruelty justified in the name of survival. We read this rebuke in this Shabbat's Haftarah from the beginning of the book of Isaiah. See how the faithful city has become stained. She was once full of justice, righteousness used to dwell in her, but now murderers. Your rulers are rebels, companions of thieves. They all love bribes and chase after gifts. They do not defend the cause of the fatherless. The widow's case does not come before them. The destruction is also canonized in the book of Lamentations. In Hebrew, we say, Echa, alas, it's a moan and a cry. We will be reading it tomorrow evening. Please join us. Scholar Adele Berlin reminds us of the reality beneath the poetry of Lamentations. Ancient empires, she explains, used siege warfare as a brutal tactic to break the spirit of a people. Cities were blockaded until starvation and disease decimated those who were trapped inside. No distinction was made between civilian and soldier, the suffering indiscriminate. And all of the poetic outpouring of Lamentations is addressed to God, so that God may feel the suffering of the people and rescue them, restore them to their country and to their relationship with their God. The entire book may be thought as an appeal for God's mercy, yet throughout Lamentations, God remains silent. The last 2 verses of Lamentations are perhaps the most distressing verses of our sacred texts. Take us back, O God, to yourself. Oh, let us come back. Make us again as we were before. But if you have utterly rejected us and remain so angry with us, and that's it. The if-then clause is left unfinished, and we are left to sit in the pain of existential uncertainty. What if we cannot go back? Tisha B'Av is a time for witnessing this pain. Our tradition demands it of us. And this week I've read and reread Lamentations side by side with the endless news stories and first-hand accounts of the hell-like devastation being wrought in Gaza. Our sacred texts are leaping off the page, and we are living the destruction in real time. We are witnessing civilians being herded into tighter and tighter spaces and then being shot at. We are witnessing lying and corruption, self-preservation over the sanctity of life. We are witnessing human beings die in the rubble from starvation and disease. There is no water. There is no flour. And where is there no flour, there is no Torah. I am sickened by this war, being waged in the name of God, whatever name you ascribe, it's not my God. And I fear to call it rock bottom, because if this nightmare can somehow grow worse. Read the articles, see the photos, hear the testimonies, and sit with the pain. Let it break your heart. Let the pain pierce your soul in a way you will never forget. I've been asked, what can we do? And I wish I had a more direct answer. I live in a constant cycle between sit with it and fix it. I have found myself putting my efforts behind organizations I believe in. I've sought to get to the core of the change I want to see and to determine who is doing it best. Who is feeding children? Who is mobilizing Israelis towards peace and political shifts? Who is fighting to take greed out of life and death decision-making? I was listening to a conversation between Yehuda Kurtzer and Danielle Hartman of the Hartman Institute, where they compared the length of the arc of impact as seen by the educator and the agent of change. From their point of view, the educator needs to surrender an amount of control over the influence of short-term change. They cannot vote. They cannot stop the bleeding. But they can flood the marketplace with ideas and morals and values. They can teach and inspire and spread awareness until the tides shift. I find myself somewhere in between again. But what sticks with me from their conversation was the use of the word flood. While working on these words and leaning into the imagery of dryness and drought, it rained a lot. It rained last night while I was teaching our Intro to Judaism class about justice and Judaism, as our class interpreted tzedek, tzedek, tirdof, and determined that we are called on to pursue justice time and time again, that we must pursue justice even when it might not be in our personal best interest, and that we must pursue justice because we cannot rely on someone else to do it for us, especially someone who is in power. And it rained this morning, right before I left my house for La Collaborativa, as 20 of us met under the bridge in Chelsea to help distribute food. We do it every month. And it felt so good. It felt so good to feed someone in need of nourishment. Without judgment, without red tape, and in defiance of injustice. It felt like change in the right direction. It felt like the words of Torah in the work of our hands. When we find ourselves in a moral desert, we must flood our world with good in every way we can. We must make justice burst forth like a river, righteousness like a never-failing stream. The waters will find their way to the low places. The waters will find their way to the dry places. But we must pour them out into this world. Tisha B'Av is for witnessing, for mourning, for facing the screams and the silence. But it is not the end. Immediately after this low point of Tisha B'Av, our calendar implores us to climb upwards again. Next Shabbat is called Shabbat Nachmu, the Shabbat of comfort. And our Haftorot, up until Rosh Hashanah, will be about comfort, teshuvah, return, and repair. And this week we begin the book of Deuteronomy. As we begin again the long arc towards return, towards hope, towards the possibility of change. I surprised myself last week when I said Numbers was about a fifth of your year. Here's the next fifth. Here's an opportunity. No one said the climb is going to be easy. It is slow. It is steep. We will need each other's help along the way. So I ask you, as we turn this corner in Jewish time, what do you hope to see in our upcoming opportunities for renewal? What do you want to see by Rosh Hashanah? Who do you want to be by Simchat Torah? What changes feel beyond your control, and what actions are within your reach? And where is the stretch? Where is that courageous stretch that brings these two poles just a bit closer together? I pray my God will not stay silent, and I know my God will not allow me to stay silent. May you find sustenance in the waters of Torah and pour them out wherever you can. Shabbat Shalom.